name is Keely.
I'm Sam.
And this is WataWahineWorld! Yeah, quick shout out to Henry and Jack for doing our beautiful intro. That took a lot of coordinating and finagling, and we appreciate you guys.
And to Keely's sister Hanja for our beautiful WataWahine logo. Make a W.
Oh. WataWahine logo, yes, we have the best friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the community, man.
Right?
Build
Light
the house.
work, many hands.
True that. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. That's the logo of the day.
It is.
Alright, what's up guys? Aloha mai kako. Today we're here to talk about our ramblings and sustainability, per usual. But we did have some notes on food because I've been eating a lot of food lately. In celebration.
Aren't we all? I
Yeah.
mean, holiday season to every day. Food is part of our daily life. And it's important to know where it's coming from or to know the best options around you. Or even if you really need the packaging that it comes in. So we're talking about all areas of food today.
A lot of plastics in our food, how it gets there, do we need it? Is it avoidable? And what we can do. And then also we're going to kind of get sidetracked and talk a little bit about the ocean cleanup project and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in Hawaii / California / our Pacific Ocean. And if you guys have already heard of this, it is a great recap. But if you've never heard of it before, this will be kind of a beginner's guide in the what to know and what it is and what effects it has on us here in Hawaii. Specifically because that's who we be. That's where we are.
Ocean Cleanup 101 right here. I'm happy you're here and staying here.
Should we do a couple breaths to get us grounded?
For sure.
A deep breath in. And a ha. One more in. And a ha. It's always good to get the wiggles out too, girl. And just a second of recognizing how lucky we are to be in this place, Hawaii, out here in Palolo Valley, where we stay.
And how lucky we are to even have a full stomach right now. We were just chewing on some chips before, making some ideas. So I'm happy to be with you, but
so
also
happy
to have food like that.
It is pretty amazing, right? I always think about how we just can have any food. The other day I was at Costco, and already Costco is just overwhelming with all the choices and all the yummy food.
The bulk.
And I saw like a huge bulk thing of matcha coconut organic tapioca pudding. And I was like, it's crazy that we can have that specific gourmet thing at our fingertips for $20 for a huge pack of it.
Did you get it?
No.
Dang
Because I was like, that's just too much. Because I feel like when I was growing up, going to the grocery store, bare necessities, right? Meat, dairy, bread, oats, and like just bare ingredients to make the food at home. Versus now you can basically get like pre-made meals.
For sure.
Prepared stuff, gourmet stuff, rare stuff. There's so many options.
Right. And I like that you brought up Costco because in America, Costco is everywhere. Even internationally, there's Costco. When I lived abroad in Spain, there was Costco everywhere. So to know that there could be a Costco on an island selling the same products that it does all over the world just shows how much is imported here.
Bro, you know we have the most busy Costco in the world?
What?
Yeah. The EVLA one. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That makes
the one
so
in town
much sense.
is the one busiest one in the world. And the second busiest one is the one in
Hawaii.
No. Oh, is it Hawaii? No, I think it's the one in the center of Oahu.
Oh.
Where is it? In Waipahu or something?
We have 3 here on
We
the
have
island?
3 Costcos on
What?
Oahu alone.
I thought we only had 2.
Nope.
That's crazy.
Only 2 gas stations though.
That makes so much sense why there's no sample at Costco every time I go. So busy, everyone's taking the sample.
Yeah, the most busy one in the world.
Wow.
I guess like everybody gets off the plane and then they just want to go there for like all the stuff because everywhere else is so expensive.
But also because we don't even have the land for there to be big farms to grow, a polyculture of food. There's only Dole Plantation, which does the pineapples.
Mm-hmm.
And then niche farmers that are only producing a limited amount of food. That's where people get the most of their food, is from Costco, which is being imported.
Yeah.
So that's why it's probably the most busiest, because that's the only source of food.
So that's a great segue. Oh, you have an eyelash.
Make a wish.
Oh, sorry, I lost it. General wish. My main question was basically like, is food sovereignty possible in Hawaii today? I like to think, and I think a lot of people like to think, that yes, it is. Because Hawaiians had cultivated agriculture and fish ponds that allowed them to thrive for thousands of years, they're finding out, with huge populations that are comparable to the populations of Oahu today. But today, we are very dependent on imported food, with around, it says between 85 to 90 and even up to 95% of our food imported.
With COVID happening, that was the biggest scare that Hawaii has had, because we didn't know if the ports were going to be shut down. And if that were to even be the case, of the ports being shut down and us not getting imported, the whole island would only have 5 days of food.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right?
That's why I'm like, I need to start planting my own food now.
Right.
It's wild that people don't plant their own food, and that we just don't have that as a part of our lives. We're just told that we're too busy and it's not possible, but it's really easy, I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, it does take a little bit of love and attention, but you should be giving your space love and attention, especially if you live somewhere as beautiful as here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But also, even getting started, like, start with herbs.
Yeah,
That's
start with
the
the
easiest
herbs.
way. You can do it on
And
a
they
lanai.
smell so good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a garnish, it's also tea.
Right?
You know? It
Yeah.
could be a seasoning. It could be in salads. So
I
yum.
even told you that I took a clipping, or I cut the top of an onion when it was sprouting, a little green sprout, and I planted it and I had green onion. So crazy. Something that I bought from the store now is something that I'm just making myself.
Yeah, I think everybody should be growing their own food. Especially here, it grows so easy. You barely even have to really do much of anything besides like weeding, because everything just starts growing once the soil is good. That's the main thing, is you need the good soil.
Yeah.
You gotta make that stuff nice.
Right. I live in an apartment complex that if I'm only able to grow the herbs but not big food, I also reach out to people to trade those kind of things, or to buy directly from a small business, or like have friends that spearfish, so I know where my food is coming from.
Yeah,
and that's also
it totally opens up like bartering.
Yeah, that's where we need to go back.
Go back to the roots. I just make kombucha, and I've been starting to make palatable kombucha.
So honest.
And I trade it all the time for like veggie good times. Yeah. There's also a lot of plastic in our food. You know, talking about getting the soil good, but there are a lot of ways that plastic can enter our food.
Yeah.
What are some of the main ones you think?
I know at least 2. Just the gyres that live in ocean is a main source, and that just comes from the production of plastic happening, being swept into the ocean. And a fact that I know is that a garbage truck amount of plastic is dumped into the ocean a minute. And it's not like I'm saying a garbage truck is going to the coast and dumping it. That's just coming from runoff with weather conditions, the wind, wings, like birds will take up fishing line for their nest but then drop it. So all of that is being entered into the ocean. And then through the currents, if we're just focusing on our Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which lies in between California and Hawaii, though that garbage is being swept off the coast of California, going underneath Hawaii to Japan, collecting that garbage, going above Hawaii with the currents, and resting in this gyre, which is known as our Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And then through our trade winds, along with the currents, that's being swept onto our islands, all of our east-facing shores. So that's one, just by runoff. But another one is through not having proper recycling practices. And we send a lot of our waste, if it's not diverted into the right categories that can be recycled or even reused, is all being sent to the landfill, being incinerated. And if you burn plastic, that smoke is still plastic, so it goes up into the air. it has density higher than air, which then falls down into our soil, is inhaled, like my dog story that I was talking about, and then planted into our food.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the only two ways.
So
and then,
gross.
like, while it's in the ocean, the fish are eating it. We eat the fish.
Yeah,
we have the
bioaccumulation.
plastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I do
those
want
are
to
the
talk
only-
more about bioaccumulation / the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Mhm.
But maybe we just finished talking up about food / soil.
Yeah. How do
We
you
talked
think?
also about cutting boards when we were
Yeah.
brainstorming, and I've seen a lot of like TikToks.
Thumbs
Like
up.
that's society's TikTok.
Yes.
Like that's the community. That's the community, and that's the conversation.
Mhm.
That's where it's happening. They talk about microplastics and cutting boards. Obviously, it's coming off. I think cutting boards in general are kind of just disgusting. You cut like raw chicken in there, and then it's like in there, and then there's like little tiny micro divots, and it's just in there,
That
you
micro
know.
divots.
There's micro divots, and then you just get it wet and it's
Yeah.
moldy and shit. But the plastic ones, I guess they don't have the mold, but they do have little plastics. Is that enough to affect your health? Is it more than what's already in our fish and meat already? What do you think?
I would think it's not. I think it's definitely adding to the problem because as you make the cuts in the plastic, you can even feel it as you graze over.
Yeah, like
the
all
little
bits.
The bits of plastic that even
Totally.
comes off in your hand. And so since you're like moving it, it's getting wet, and when plastic gets wet, it starts to break up even more. I think it's definitely adding to it, 1,000%. Definitely not as much that's already in the food since that plastic has been sitting, breaking up for many years or decades in the ocean and then being eaten that way. But I think it's definitely like adding that little cherry on top
Mm-hmm.
of your plastic consumption.
And that's just like a visible one.
Yeah.
But then also plastic can break down through heat, right? And just over time. So when stuff is packaged in plastic, like how everything is packaged in plastic, how does that go into our food?
What I always like to bring up is if you went any fast food and you left that plastic cup in your car, like a big one when I was in my single-use plastic intense lifestyle, like just consuming every day, I would always get Baja Blast from Taco Bell.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never tried
course.
them. I was so scared.
It's really good. Bring your own cup though. But Baja Blast is so good. I've learned the secret recipe, so I'll tell you off the camera.
Okay.
Just like to
The Krabby
basic-
Patty formula.
I have the Krabby Patty. But say that is sitting in your car, and it's the weather here that we have in Hawaii, or just summertime season wherever our audience is, and that's sitting in the car. The car is getting hot because you're out doing your activities. That plastic, since it's so hot, it's then breaking up into your drink, and that's why even when you come back, the drink tastes a little bit different.
Yeah.
And some people may say, oh, the ice melted or whatever. No, it's really the plastic. And you'll even see the condensation inside where the drink is already gone. Did I say condensation already? Yeah. Oh, that's where it's happening.
That's nasty.
So that's one that I bring up just for everyone to relate to.
Yeah.
But I think for all, it like even comes down to us getting things imported. It's being shipped or packaged in these facilities, and then in the cargo ships or even in the planes, it does get hot, or even the
Yeah, who knows what it's
compression.
getting exposed
Yeah.
to.
right? So it's just like the change of temperature throughout transporting, and then just being left in the stores, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And the environmental impact of importing food as well is just insane. And then we have to ship out all that garlic, all that garbage back to the mainland.
Those garlic fingers.
All that garlic and that garbage
And the
back to the
garbage.
mainland. It's like double the footprint versus growing our own food here.
And you heat up plastic in order for it to be like saran wrap. Like you need to heat it up.
So it's already being released a little bit into the environment before it's even entering that stage of its life cycle towards going back to the consumer.
Right.
That's crazy.
So like it always goes through a process of heat that's already breaking up and emitting it into our environment. That even, okay, if research comes out that as it's packaged and sitting in the store, it's not emitting anything, it's still happened in its process and will happen after we consume it.
Yeah. That's disgusting, girl.
So gross.
It's just the way we live, though.
No, it's so gross. And I always tell people, and I think I said this in our or I don't know if the mic turned off, but I always say our solution is our voice and our actions.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of doing reduce, reuse, recycle, and that goes in level of importance, it's more important to reduce, I say refuse. Like, think if you really need that product, if it's really sustaining you to the needs that it, like the basic necessities that it needs to, think if you really need it. Think if you can buy another option that's giving you the same product but in a different packaging from a different consumer or company that's not adding to the big plastic problem. And just like get more in tune of how you can just make small changes but still get what you need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or make your own stuff.
Yeah. And of course, that can come hand in hand with the, I'd say, probably more affluent lifestyle. Like a more, like we're definitely very
We are privileged.
privileged. There it is. We are very privileged in that we can afford to go to the store and get organic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the store and get stuff that's not wrapped in plastic. Go to the farmer's market and get local produce. But I think farming is also a way that anybody pretty much could, you know, start making healthier choices and more sustainable choices. And even if you live in like a small apartment, I've lived in like literally a closet when I was in
Harry
college,
Potter.
and I grew basil. So
Wow! Because you bought it from the store where it gives you
no,
the
I
roots?
stole a clipping
Oh, hey.
from my neighbor. I didn't steal it, but I was like, "Can I take a clipping?" And they were like, "Yes." Thai basil is so resilient, so I just
It is.
took a clipping, took off the flowers, and then stuck it in a thing of water, and it started growing branches and going crazy.
Wow.
I could barely contain it.
Wow.
But so you could literally just start experimenting. Like when you're on a walk and you see some oregano or some basil or some mint, you could just grab a clipping and like see if it happens, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because besides offering food and nutrients, it can also offer like better air quality. It can just improve your overall mood to know that you're keeping a little plant alive and the vibe of your space, obviously.
Right.
But I think it can also teach you like a lot about connection to nature, which is for me the biggest key to sustainability. Bye,
Mosquito. It's invasive. We don't like it, so I'm able to kill it.
We're about to get eaten.
Sorry.
We gotta wrap this
I
shit
wanted
up.
to save your life. But
You
continue.
did. Thank you. I think the biggest thing about sustainability for me is having that connection. Like we talk about with octopus, the ocean, ancestral knowledge, farming. And so any way you can find a connection, you know, just find a nice tree you like this ulu tree will provide ulu to us one day. And so we're talking to her now, and we're hoping that, you know, we give the good vibes and she fruits. But you can do that on a small scale with mint, oregano, whatever your
Rosemary.
possibilities are. Rosemary.
Rosemary.
Can you grow rosemary from a clip?
Yeah.
Really?
But it needs to be like a branch kind, like stemmy.
Oh.
And then you take that clipping, you dip it in honey. And I'm not too sure. I'll probably put in the description what honey is really doing. But from my understanding, it basically speeds up the process of it reproducing. But if,
Cool.
yeah, right?
Honey is like amazing.
Helps your skin, helps your health.
Antibiotic. Wait, you put it on your skin?
I use Manuka honey. Is it called
Oh, that's
Manuka?
expensive.
Manuka
That's a New
honey and
Zealand
coffee
honey.
grinds.
Oh, it's a face mask? Or like a
Yep.
face scrub?
Face scrub, and then if I don't
That's why
want
your
to
skin
scrub,
is so beautiful. Okay.
if I don't want to scrub, then just grounded up oats, and that helps with I forget what oats, but people with eczema like will take oat bath because it helps with soothing the skin
I
or
need to do that.
brightening.
Give me some of that.
Right? I'll give you some
Give
Manuka.
me some of that.
But
That's awesome.
I was going to say if you can't connect through the environment, like I want to help, I want to start doing all this because I care for the environment. You can also think you're saving a lot of money because, like I brought up the onion, I bought it, I cut it, and then now I have it sustaining me for maybe 4 months now. But then it also starts to have you think about all the food waste that you are making from the groceries that you get. Like with some examples that I said as we were brainstorming was taking onion skin. Usually you'd throw that out, you wouldn't have any use for it except for the layers of the onion. But you can actually bake that, ground it up, whether it's a blender or that nice stone.
Oh, I like
what's that
those.
called?
I have one of those.
Yeah,
I
that
don't know,
stone grinder. And then you have onion powder, which you probably already use and had to buy separately.
True.
But you can just go down to that one onion, make your pasta, but also make that
the onion
powder.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah. And that kind of like leads into the other side of the problem, which is food waste. And that's also on the other side of like the life cycle of all of our imported food.
Mm-hmm.
So from one side of the issue, we can reduce the importation that we need by relying more on our own homegrown food, stuff that we create or like plant and sustain ourselves off of.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other end, it's like, okay, maybe I had to go to Costco and I had to eat some food, but I do have some like, you know, onion peels or like, what were you saying was a good example of like just food waste, like after we eat it, broccoli stems,
Yeah,
even though you
carrot
can't
tops.
eat broccoli. Yeah, just stuff that you probably wouldn't eat and you can find other uses for, but let's just say you're feeling like you want to not do a bunch of dishes and chores and you want to just throw it away. But actually, Hawaii has a lot of food waste, and it's actually around 164,000 tons of food waste every year.
Wow.
With 15% of our food on our entire island being wasted just on Oahu. And of course, like you said, there's restaurants that throw away their food, which is ridiculous. And then there's also just like homeowners that throw away their carrot tops, throw away groceries that probably went bad, and people who eat at restaurants, of course, and then probably throw it out, or just food goes bad.
Going back to TikTok, just because, like you said, that is the most unsupervised news source that we have, because everything is so political nowadays, that TikTok is just where you can get the raw
Reactions.
News. Yeah, raw reactions and raw news. But I would see videos of, because my whole For You page is like environmental and then cute dogs. And
Love that.
then really weird
They know you.
frog talk, I don't even know.
Weird octopus hentai. Don't know where that came from.
Was just, yeah, we already said
I mean, it's
Costco.
public knowledge. It's out there on
Public
TikToky.
Dunkin' Donuts. They have a protocol to not even give their donuts to the employees at the end of the day. They need to throw it out.
Like, why
that
not give it
is-
to the homeless?
Right?
There should be a nonprofit that like goes around to all the restaurants at the end of the
Yeah.
day and gives the food to the homeless.
You would
That's
think.
a fucking good idea if anybody has money.
But that's like
good.
in their rule book to throw it all out, as well as high-end name brands that are in the fashion industry. If something's out of season or out of style, they throw it out, but they slash it so that people who do dumpster dive for those reasons
Can't use it.
cannot use it.
That's
So-
messed up.
Yeah.
I remember watching something on TikTok about Petco doing that with like fish. Like
What?
throwing away the freaking like, you know,
The
those fish that
fish?
are always in there, like the ones that are always like in that little cup. Yes, the fish in the
No.
cups. I know, it's really fucked up. But so on that side of it, you can you can help with this issue, not with the fish. I don't know how we can help with the
I don't
fish, but with the food waste. Making a compost, that's something that I've recently challenged myself to do because I grew up having a vermicast. Is that what the worm means? And
Big little worms.
it was just a lot of work for my parents and they just had to stop. But I know like your work or organization does that, and then like a lot of like community gardens do that, and people do that all the time, and that works really well, or bokashi. But I'm just trying the simplest method, which I have just simplified down to calling it the box or the bucket. It starts out in the bucket. I put it in like a Home Depot bucket with like a paper bag I get all the time at like the grocery store, and I throw all my food waste minus the meat because I'm afraid of the meat stuff. But everything else, and like no cheese, but like I'm not gonna throw away cheese anyway. That stuff's expensive. Everything else
French about
though, I throw in there. All cardboard or paper I throw in there, and then once it's full, I throw that into a bigger box. I drilled holes in this like big black container, like you know those lid ones that are like always in your garage or whatever. I've drilled holes in the top and bottom, put cardboard down, put leaves down, put handfuls of soil down and water, and then put the food in. And then I shake it. And then I throw it in the corner of my yard. And we'll get updates on that because that's my newest project.
Yeah, growing up I had not that, it was just like a compost pile.
Okay.
Where it would just be, my whole entire backyard used to be everything but grass, like all kinds of trees, bushes, everything but grass. And so in the back by our, like a plant wall, we just had all of our food pile, but then that would just start to break up from natural creatures coming and eating it, or just in the weather conditions, that it would turn into soil at the outermost rim, that we would then use that and use it for our plants.
Oh, cool.
So that's even like, yeah.
Would
We
you
were
have to
just
like
dumping
would
it.
you have to like
Yeah,
move it
we
around
would,
every now and again?
we would like puncture some holes in it, and you would even see like as you punctured it, it'd be hot in the middle. So it was like a hot compost, but I think my dad only covered it up in the winters for like snow reasons, but that created like the hot compost aspect.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So,
It's pretty
I was
easy
just
to do a
tossing
compost.
it.
And a lot of people are worried about the smell, but honestly, I've picked up handfuls of compost soil and smelt it and it smells so good. And they're worried about bugs, but like the bugs mean it's good.
Bug means it's good.
The bug
Fungi,
means
bacteria,
good.
and invertebrates mean
The
you
more
got
life,
the FBI law
the better.
down. Yeah.
Ooh, FBI, I like
FBI.
that.
That's what's really well known with the vermicast, because since you have invertebrates in your bin, it's best to know how to maintain them, and that's with fungi, which is the mold that grows on your food scraps. That's really good for them. The bacteria, because when people hear bacteria, you usually think bad, but there's also good bacteria that's helping us fight off diseases and helping us digest food. And so with healthy scraps like fruits and veggies, as well as eggshells, you're making good bacteria, and then your invertebrates are the worms. So we call it the FBI protocol.
Cute.
And then law is life, air, and water.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's cute.
FBI law.
I love that. Oh,
Open
you should
up.
make hats.
Yeah.
And if you really want to go full cycle with it, compost toilet. All the way to the poop. Bro, compost toilet's for the extremists, but I hope one day to be there.
Right.
Because our wastewater treatment plant is like huge. I've been working on that site, and they now have a tunnel to move and transport all the poop and all the pee and all the waste that you flush down the toilets in your hotels, and you can drive a semi-truck through it.
Huh?
That's how big it is, man. That's how much poop's getting moved all the time, every
I'm just
day.
thinking about mine. I'm like, yeah, that's a dump load.
Okay, well now, that was pretty much all I had on that. Did you have any more on that?
No, I mean, you pretty much brought it down to the most simplest form of either just putting in a bucket or even just tossing it in a corner of your backyard, or, if you don't have a backyard, in a bucket. But once you start to do that and see that you can make something, again, like we're like a broken record here, but once you see that you can make something that you don't have to purchase anymore, it drives you and opens a door to do more small acts like that. So then once you do it, or even have a friend who's doing it, open a book, search it up on, I don't know where I'm going with it.
On Google
But
search.
delve into compost and why it's important to do so.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, I mean, you can get very complex with it, but it really doesn't have to be complex at all.
Right.
Just don't put meat and cheese in there.
Don't put meat and cheese.
Because I don't know about that. I can't really say that that's easy.
Yeah. If you like worms, they don't like any acidic fruits, so no pineapple,
do your research
papaya.
before the worms, for sure.
Keep those
for sure
worms
about the worms.
healthy.
We don't know about them too much.
Because you need
They're
red
sensitive.
wiggler worms, and those are dubs. They're super expensive, so if you just buy them but then do whatever with them, you'll eventually be wasting money
kill them.
in the end. Yeah.
Okay, well, I know you have to go.
Oh.
Do you want to dive into the ocean stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to go into the ocean part of it all, because we're ocean people. And we care about trash, and we see trash a lot because we live in Hawaii, and we'll get more into that in a moment. But there's a lot of effects on trash, specifically the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And one of the main effects is bioaccumulation. Obviously, also beach pollution. There's beaches like Camilo Beach, which is actually known for marine debris on Big Island. There's habitat damage. It latches onto corals and seagrass and makes it hard for it to get nutrients, air and sunlight. And then also entanglement and ingestion, obviously, by marine animals, especially by fishing nets and ghost net. But one we could definitely talk about is bioaccumulation, because that's kind of like how it gets into our food a lot of the time. And bioaccumulation, the trash breaks down into smaller and smaller bits, and then small animals will eat the trash, and then animals will eat that animal, and then so all the trash that all those animals ate will move up the food chain.
Guess who's
Maybe
at the
that
top
wasn't
of
the
that
best
one?
analogy, but
No,
it's
perfect.
us. Yeah, so a little fish will eat 5 pieces of trash, but then a big fish will eat 5 of those little fish. So now 5 times 5 is 25, so it's eating 25 pieces of trash, and it keeps on happening on all the way up to the top, and it's really starting low in the food chain.
Yeah.
I found a study that was from 2019 that found it in plastic in fish larvae. So very, very, very small pieces of plastic.
Right out of the oven,
But
kind of.
do you want to talk about where most of this trash is compiling, / how it gets there, / what it is? What's up? Why this stuff in my cup?
I touched upon the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and that's coming through the currents, the winds, all of that. But it's just the mass production that's happening in our world. Plastic was made for convenience, and it only started mass producing 112 years ago. So we are so hooked on plastic, but our great grandparents lived a life with no plastic, and they did just fine. They taught your grandparents, which your grandparents taught your parents, and then your parents brought you. And you're here on this podcast, so they must have done something right. So we
Maybe.
can live without plastic 1,010%.
If we continue to use plastic, we'll just see this issue compiling larger and larger.
Yeah.
Despite efforts to help stop it.
I know that like a lot of movements have been saying like, oh, by 2030, that's our goal, and now we have to all push it back to 2050. And okay, there is that leniency to push it back another 20 years, but if we keep producing and consuming the amount that we are in the current day, we only have 5 to 10 years for a call to action in order to make our beaches potentially be clean in the future. If not, it will be irreversibly polluted, where after 5 years, if we keep at this rate, we cannot. There will always be plastic on our beaches and in our ocean. And so, like I always say, call to action. Think about where you're getting your products. Think about if you really need it. And it's just refusing and rethinking about your decisions, because it is a big problem. Climate change is not just a trend. It's not made up. It's being called to action for a specific reason, that it should not be overlooked anymore. And we've been fighting this fight for way longer than we've been alive, but all the way back since the 50s and 70s when they were hippies, but they were actually making a profound statement way ahead in the game, where now we're at the end or close to the end of the game, that we need to make a drastic change. And a little bit about plastic. A lot of people don't even know that plastic is oil, and so you think that something so liquefied can become something so hard. You have to think of all the energy that it uses, the heat that's made throughout it. But a little bit of the background is millions of years ago, microplankton died, and they drifted all the way to the bottom of the ocean and started to secrete oil, just like how us humans sweat. They started to secrete, and I don't know who. I would love to blame the organization or the person who thought about it, but basically we take these ships out into the middle of the ocean and we put a tube all the way down to the bottom. And if you've ever seen water and oil together, it doesn't mix, but they're sucking this oil, but as they're sucking it and lifting up this tube in order to bring it somewhere else, the oil is spilling out into all of these layers of the ecosystem in our ocean that have not seen it in a million years. So it's actually killing marine life before it's even getting up to us in order to kill them even more. But basically, whatever they can suck up is sucked up, brought to another boat, which then causes more spills to happen, then brought to land in a refinery, which is where the energy starts, the heat, the emissions of burning plastic or making it into plastic, and then is brought to our convenience stores. And so that's just a little bit of the background, and just to think that, I think this is a good example. Wait. This much amount of oil is used just to make this size amount, and only this product into plastic. This isn't plastic, it's glass, but that just shows how much oil you need for one. And then you think of all the water cases that hold like 24 bottles.
Yeah.
Think of all of that oil.
It's like a larger impact than it seems. And it's all invisible to us.
So invisible to us. And they want to keep it that way, and that's why greenwashing is a term that's used nowadays, because it's really heightened, because they don't want you to see that side of it all. They just want you to think plastic is good, it's giving you this product right away, and we want you to keep buying more of it because it's a cheaper option for us to get our product out.
It does end up beginning in our oceans and ending in our oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you throw a piece of trash out the window when you're way up Mauka, way up in the mountains, it's going to end up downstream, whether through landslides, rainfall, snow, really anything. And it could take generations, could take hundreds of years, but the good news for plastic, unfortunately for us, is that it won't go away.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll continue on its journey and make its way to the ocean, where it will probably end up in one of these garbage patches.
Yeah.
And the largest one is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is 3 times the size of France, or 2 times the size of Texas.
And it's not an island like many people think. Many people, and it makes sense because plastic is less dense than natural resources, but it's actually a big soup. It goes all the way from the top, which is starting pile, all the way to the bottom, and it's stirring up because the water's always moving. But if it's stirring up like this, it's also moving in its own circular motion, going closer to California, closer to Hawaii, and then soon to be Alaska. So it's even getting closer to the coast that the call to action is now. And it's a great eye-opener for those who live on a coastal side of the land, because they're able to see all the miscellaneous batches of plastic that's coming through.
Yeah, when I sailed from California to Hawaii, I really wanted to go to the Pacific Garbage Patch, but everyone told me that I couldn't because there's no wind there. So I guess it's just like a stagnant place, since the North Pacific Gyre, it moves right with the natural current. It in the center is where the trash goes, because it's all kind of swirling into that center zone. And there, my understanding, like the center of a tornado, kind of like how there's the eye of the storm where there's no wind. So if you get caught in that area, even though it might seem small compared to the whole ocean, it's still an area that's twice the size of Texas. So it's still a large area that you wouldn't be able to sail. And so everyone was like, you cannot, please don't try to find it. But we still did find a lot of trash. And that is still just the stuff on the surface. There's a lot of stuff, especially fishing trash, which is the majority of it, that has like lead weights or weights that causes it to sink down.
Yeah. Or even like bringing up the Titanic. That's all the way down there.
Too soon.
I'm just kidding. And it has all the luggage from the guests, all of the food that was once there, all the oil that was made for the stoves to serve the food. That's just like a well-known.
It's all still there.
Yeah.
True.
A well-known big one that it's polluting the ocean.
Yeah. Any plane crashes, boats, shipwrecks. Yeah. Shipping containers that fall off, which happens all the time. I heard one story about a guy who was sailing across the Pacific, and he just started seeing volleyballs, and he's like, am I tripping? Like, am I dehydrated? And he just saw like hundreds of these volleyballs, all the same ones, and he Googled it, like, when he got home, and I guess, like, a shipping container had fallen off from a company who was selling them, but it's crazy that probably happens all the time, and, like, people are just finding stuff. Okay.
Aloha,
guys.
Our storage is full, just like we are with all the food that we're able to eat.
God, it's such a full day.
But we wanted to leave it on a positive note and just restate like we do in every episode. Do your research just like we're doing. Talk about it. Bring notice to what's happening in the world.
I think we're on 5.
And we just want to say mahalo for listening. I know it does ramble sometimes, but it's just like talking to your friends because we're your friends.
We're honestly just on here to rant and have discussions with you guys. If you heard anything that you're like, what? That's not right, or I think I have a different opinion about that, we'd love to talk with you guys.
Yeah.
That's what this all was honestly started to begin a conversation, one that was based in love and kindness and respect for this Aina. So we'd love to talk with you guys, and thank you guys so much for listening to the 3rd episode. If you haven't listened to the other ones, that's okay, but if you want to, go back and give them a listen. I think they're worth it.
Yes.
Sorry, we're too lazy. We're really tired to go back through, but it was really close to the end. We appreciate
love
you
you.
guys.
What up? Make a dubs.
Oh.
WataWahineWorld.